The rise of the Mali Empire. When Abu-Bakr II, the adventurous ruler of Mali, set sail into the Atlantic with his fleet of ships, he left the throne in the hands of a man who was supposed to be a temporary ruler, a caretaker. That man was Musa. At the time, few could have predicted that this young leader would become one of the most legendary kings in all of world history. But destiny had a way of shaping Musa's path. As the ocean swallowed Abu-Bakr II's fleet, never to return, Musa found himself no longer a caretaker, but the rightful emperor of Mali. And with this sudden rise came one of the most extraordinary reigns the African continent would ever witness. A kingdom at the crossroads. Musa inherited a kingdom at a turning point. The Mali Empire stretched across the savannas and forests of West Africa, commanding the rich lands between the Sahara Desert and the Atlantic Ocean. Gold mines sparkled in the south, while trade caravans snaked across the desert to the north, carrying salt, ivory, cola nuts, and fabrics. But being ruler of such a wealthy land was not easy. Rivals eyed Mali's riches. Internal factions threatened stability. And beyond Mali's borders, foreign powers like Morocco and Egypt knew the empire was sitting on treasures beyond imagination. Musa understood one thing clearly. If Mali was to survive and grow, it needed strong leadership, wise reforms, and a vision that stretched beyond gold. The young ruler. At the time of his rise, Musa was in his 20s or early 30s. He was educated in Islamic scholarship, trained in the traditions of West African leadership, and deeply spiritual. Musa believed that his power was not just political, it was also a responsibility before God. And so, his first task was not to conquer new lands, but to strengthen the foundations of his empire. He restructured the royal court, appointing loyal advisors and governors across Mali's provinces. He improved tax collection on trade routes, ensuring that gold and salt caravans contributed to the empire's strength. And he maintained order, making sure that Mali's borders were safe from raiders and rival kingdoms. Musa ruled with what people would later describe as quiet wisdom. He was not a king of noise or arrogance, but of vision and patience. Mali's wealth. Under Musa's early reign, Mali's gold production flourished. Historians estimate that nearly half of the world's gold supply at the time came from Mali. Imagine that. One empire in West Africa holding enough wealth to influence the global economy. Caravans carried this gold across the Sahara, reaching bustling cities like Cairo and Tunis. From there, it traveled into Europe and the Middle East, fueling the growth of kingdoms and empires far beyond Africa. But Musa knew gold alone could not make Mali great. Wealth had to be matched with culture, knowledge, and faith. Building a cultural empire. Musa was a devout Muslim. Islam had already spread across West Africa through traders and scholars, but under his reign, it became even more deeply rooted. He encouraged the building of mosques and the teaching of the Quran. He invited scholars and architects to Mali, turning the empire into a hub of learning and culture. The seeds of greatness were being planted, seeds that would later bloom in the legendary city of Timbuktu, which Musa would transform into one of the intellectual capitals of the medieval world. Preparing for a journey. But even as Musa strengthened his empire, something greater was stirring in his heart. The call to make the sacred pilgrimage to Mecca, the Hajj. For Muslims, the Hajj was not only a spiritual duty, but also a demonstration of faith and humility before God. For Musa, this was no ordinary journey. It was a chance to place Mali firmly on the world map. A chance to show the power, wealth, and faith of his empire to the great kingdoms of the Middle East and beyond. And so he began to plan, foreshadowing the greatest pilgrimage in history. Whispers spread across Mali. The emperor was preparing for a journey like no other. Not a small caravan, but an army of pilgrims, carrying unimaginable riches. Gold dust, fine silks, slaves, horses, and camels. Musa intended to travel with the splendor of a king chosen by God himself. No one knew it yet, but this pilgrimage would shake the very foundations of the medieval economy. It would turn the name of Mansa Musa into legend, and it would forever cement Mali as one of the richest and most powerful empires of the age.